Hi everyone. If you're on keto, at some point you're gonna hit the plateau. And if you haven't, you will. So today I'd like to share with you some of the reasons you might be hitting the plateau and how you can break through it. So keto plateau basically means that when your primary goal is to reduce your body weight and it doesn't matter what you do, the number on the scale just does not move. Or for whatever reason, you can't get back to ketosis. So personally, I have come across 2 points during the past 12 months that I've been on keto, that I felt that there was no progress. The weight seemed to fluctuate a lot. So I wasn't trying to lose sort of tremendous amount of weight, but still I had a goal in mind. And there were points that I just couldn't get the number to move, and I was extremely frustrated. So I was looking around for solutions and trying a few of them. So I'd like to share with you some of the common reasons why you'll be hitting the plateau and also possible solutions. So these are the methods I got to know through my research, but also more importantly, I tried them out on my own body, and some of them work better than others, and I'd like to share the outcome with you. So as I mentioned in the previous video, I don't test my ketone levels, so the clearest indicator I have is my body weight. So I weigh myself every day, and I use an app that links up to my phone. So I do have a very clear graph that I could see the fluctuations and at what point it goes up or down. So first of all, weight fluctuation is entirely normal. If your goal is to reduce your body weight, you probably rarely come across anyone that just lose weight continuously. Unless you have a huge amount of weight to lose, then maybe in initial phase, that could happen. I think majority of people will get to the point that it does not move very much or even going up. So what you want to focus on isn't the fluctuations sort of within a week, for instance. That could seem to go up and down. What is most important is whether the general trend is going up or down within a month or maybe 2 months. So there were days that I'll gain like a half a kilo or a kilo, and that sounds pretty scary, but that's normally if I've done something slightly naughty or I've eaten some food my body doesn't agree with and I retain water. If you're not doing anything unusual, the fluctuations between day to day is normally due to water. If the general trend is going down, then you're in a good place. It does not matter if you have gained half a kilo yesterday and then, normally you would drop it within the next couple of days. If you haven't changed the way you eat or exercise, but the weight just does not drop, and that's when people panic. So I'd like to go through some of the most common causes. Some may be very obvious and some are not. So on the dietary side, one of the possible reasons is you might be taking in too many carbs. As I mentioned in the previous videos, the calculation of carbs can be inaccurate sometimes. I mean, there are many foods that we consume have hidden carbs that we're not aware of. And that's one of the benefits to stick with kind of purest plant-based food, that we can see what they are. But if you go to a restaurant or if you buy something that's pre-prepared, it's much harder to grasp what is going in to that food. There's a lot of hidden carbs very often contained within the seasoning. So things like sauces or some sort of coating on food, a lot of them contain a lot of sugar and starch. I do go by feeling as well, but I stick with food that I know probably safe to eat and my body respond well. If you eat out a lot, or if you buy something that's pre-prepared a lot, you want to watch out for the actual ingredients. Another reason you could be hitting the plateau is actually taking too much protein. So this is slightly counterintuitive. I think the mainstream idea is that we need to take in a lot of protein to support our muscle health and development. And to a certain extent, that's true, but the question is how much. And it's now known the amount of protein that we think we need for a healthy body is highly overestimated. That's why when it comes to ketogenic diets, the recommendation is actually moderate protein. And it's important to highlight that because in the past, when people were on Atkins, particularly for a non-vegan, the first thing you do, you hit bacon and egg. You start eating steaks and just overload protein overall, and actually not taking sufficient amount of fat. The protein tends to be out of proportion. So that's why in the past when people were on Atkins, they end up with kidney stones and all sorts of problems. So if you look at the sort of ideal ketogenic diet in terms of macro ratios, we're talking about 80% of fat or even higher, about 10 to 15% of protein, and the remaining being carbohydrate. So the issue with overloading protein, other than it could cause some potential kidney problems, it could trigger something called gluconeogenesis. So it's a phenomenon that could happen that when you deplete your body with a carbohydrate, which is what we're doing with keto, the idea is to switch your body from burning glucose to burning fat. So what happens is if you overload protein, what your body could be doing is to convert the protein into glucose. And that's what gluconeogenesis means. It's your body kind of freaking out and go, well, there's no carbohydrate, but there's a tons of protein. Let me convert that into glucose that I could use. So essentially it's as if you have eaten carbohydrate or sugar, and that could kick you out of ketosis state. So when it comes to fuel sources, your body can only make one choice at a time. Your body is either burning glucose or it's burning fat. It cannot do both. So our body has a lot faster access to glucose because our body is smart. When there's glucose in your body will always go to that first and try to use it as energy. Doesn't matter if it's the fat you're taking or your body fat. When there's glucose in your body cannot burn fat. So just think about that. If you're taking in too much protein and that gets converted into glucose, and at the same time you're taking a lot of fat, essentially it's as if you're on a non-keto diet. So that could contribute to the weight plateau. So another thing you can't overlook is the timing for your meals. So I went through a period, I think it was end of last year, that I spent a lot of time working out in the evenings. So I was super into hot yoga at the time. So I would not just do one class. Most evenings I did 2 classes, and that's like 2 hours. So I had a great time. But it turned out, looking back, that wasn't really good for me because I ended up eating my evening meal really, really late. You know, I'll come back and I have to feed my cat, get a shower and get changed. By the time I was eating, there were times it was close to 11 o'clock. That wasn't ideal. And I did that for 2-3 months straight. And I felt my weight was slightly creeping up. And I thought it doesn't make sense. I'm working out twice the amount that I used to do, even though I didn't exercise to lose weight. But generally, I like to see it kind of slightly going down. It just didn't add up. So I thought, well, it had to change. So I had to reduce the time I work out to 1 class and try to eat as soon as I come back. And that sort of brought forward my meal time by a few hours. And I noticed a lot of difference. I felt a lot better when I wake up in the morning. I feel lighter, so I wasn't trying to sleep while digesting my food. That's definitely no good. My weight started to come down a little bit, so I felt lighter and better. And another thing that could contribute to your plateau is possibly alcohol. So if you just drink occasionally, let's say if you went out last night and you had a few drinks, yes, this morning you probably notice your weight would go up a little bit. A lot of time that's water weight. So if you eat clean and drink lots of water, tomorrow morning you probably will notice the weight comes down. But if you have a habit of drinking, let's say most nights, you have a glass of wine with your food, it really depends on your tolerance to alcohol and what type of alcohol you drink. There are a lot of contradicting information out there when it comes to alcohol. I think the general recommendation is to reduce it as much as possible. But we're only human, and also being in London is one of the main social activities. People go out and drink. People go to a restaurant and have a glass of wine or 2, or sometimes more. It's a personal choice. If you don't particularly drink, then, you know, your life is a lot easier. But personally, I like to enjoy a drink from time to time. So in the past, I had a habit of coming home and I would, you know, have a glass of white wine or something with my meal. But since I noticed the impact it has on my weight and also my well-being, I kind of reduced that to the minimum. So basically, I no longer drink at home, rarely. I would still have a couple of drinks when I go out. That's not a problem for me, but I do it with an open eye. I know if I go out and a few drinks, and tomorrow I'm gonna see there will be some impact reflecting on my weight. And if I'm okay with that, I do it. as long as I know there were things I could do to bring it back. So these are the more obvious causes that could contribute to you hitting plateau, but there are many other factors that are less obvious that you cannot overlook. One is lack of sleep. I mean, you'd be surprised how much sleep affects our well-being and our health. When we're sleeping well, we're kind of taking for granted, but occasionally have a night is sort of tossing and turning. For whatever reason, you can't get to sleep, and then you wake up, you feel anxious, you feel angry at yourself why you couldn't sleep. If you observe when you fly to another country in a different time zone, you're on the plane, sort of tossing and turning, you can't sleep, you get to the hotel and wake up the next morning, you don't feel great. You feel bloated. If you have a scale, you hop on it, I bet there will be weight gain. And I think it's because when our body is under stress, we're flying to different time zones, when day and night switches, your body is essentially in crisis. I mean, intellectually, we know we're going to another time zone, but your body doesn't know that. Your body doesn't know what's going on, so it's trying to adjust to the fact that you're staying awake when you're supposed to be sleeping, or you're trying to get up when it needs more sleep. So we can observe that when we're jet lagged. But imagine if you have problems sleeping on a daily basis. That could essentially create the same effect. Particular jobs that requires you to go on day shift or night shift, a lot of them have problems either with stress or weight gain. So if you have a problem sleeping and is irregular or really poor quality of sleep, essentially you're on a permanent jet lag. And just think about the crisis your body has to go through on a daily basis. And very often when your body is dealing with a crisis, something like a lack of sleep or stress, it has very little capacity to do other things. Things like burning fat. A lot of times when we're not balanced, our body stops burning fat or lose weight. In a way, I think it's a protection mechanism. I think our body is trying to preserve as much energy stored in the body as possible in case it might need it later. Because it doesn't know what's going on, it doesn't know you're trying to lose weight, and by not losing weight, it gets you more stressed. In a way, we should be grateful there's such a mechanism. So if we were trapped in a mountain with no food, it will actually slow down and give us some time to deal with the situation. So it's a life-saving mechanism. But in the modern day, with the modern diet, it's working against us. And the next major cause we need to look into when it comes to plateau is actually stress. It's linked to the sleeping problem. So it's kind of a vicious cycle because stress could trigger sleeping problem, and not sleeping well could cause you being more stressed. So you need to look at all these things as a whole together. I know day to day we have things to worry about, bills to pay, etc. Mundane things that we don't enjoy. It's about finding ways and strategies to help you to deal with this day-to-day ups and downs. We're gonna have challenges no matter what. So when our body is unbalanced and in crisis, our metabolism goes down. Even if you're doing all the keto things and eating all the right food, you will try to hold on to as much body fat as possible. So if you're constantly stressed, the chances are your body is probably not burning fat very efficiently. So now, how do we break through it? There are 2-3 things you could do, and all of them are designed to shock your system into resetting. So the first one is intermittent fasting. So it's quite a big topic, and it probably deserves a video on its own. So I want to keep it reasonably high level. So the principle is to introduce fasting periods, short fasting periods, into your day-to-day routine. It could be ranging from 16 hours to 24. So when I was hitting plateau end of last year, I decided to go on intermittent fasting. So I would, most of the times, eating only one meal a day and having the 22 to 24 hour fasting period in between. So I started off with probably about 16 hours and built it up eventually up to 24 hours. And what I would do would be eating one meal a day, pretty much around the same time. And my meal tend to be in the evening. So I have one meal in the evening and maybe have a bit of a snack. So I'll go without food till the next day around the same time. So I did that about probably solid 3 months, but my body just went, I don't want to do it anymore. If you listen to your body, it talks to you. And my body just decided it didn't want to do it anymore. I'll wake up in the morning thinking I'll be fasting. My body will go, I don't want to do that. Give me some food. And me being polite and respectful, I just go, okay. And, I ate some food. So I stopped fasting less and less. Occasionally I do it a day or two, but most days I don't fast now. I mean, this is totally anecdotal. It's my personal experience. Because I know there are people doing it out there on a regular basis, they have no problem. But I think for my body, the downside for me is that eating one meal a day is really hard to get enough calories. So I don't count calories, so I don't know the calorie content of my typical meal. But I say it's probably unlikely for me to pack in over 1,000 calories per meal. Doesn't matter how much fat I add in. So I think I was probably under eating throughout that period. Eventually my body just started protesting. But overall, as a short-term strategy, it could work because it did bring my weight baseline down. So in that sense, it was working, only that it wasn't sustainable long-term for me. But one thing about intermittent fasting is that I probably wouldn't recommend it until your body is fully fat adopted. So the advantage of being fat adopted is the fact that your body is using fat as fuel. And it will burn fat either from the fat you're taking in or your body fat. If your body has a reserved body fat to burn, and most of us probably have a fair of it doesn't have to urge you to eat. It doesn't need to make you hungry. So fasting is a lot easier when you're fat adopted. If you're not fully fat adopted, that means you probably get hungry more often. If you find yourself really hungry when you're doing the fasting, you could use the salt trick that I talked about in the other videos, that you just take a small pinch of salt, Himalayan salt, and just put it on the tip of your tongue and let it dissolve. And most of the times, the hunger pain will go away. But still, if you struggle a lot, then perhaps you want to rethink and try something else. Another thing you could do is to up the fat intake. This is under the assumption that you're not taking enough fat. So if you're not taking sufficient fat, you're probably more likely to get hungry. And if you're hungry, it's more likely you're going to consume more food than you need. So if you look at the ratio of the macro you're taking in, are you taking enough fat? Is the carbohydrate low enough? And you'll reduce the chances of eating something you shouldn't be eating. But there's one thing you shouldn't be doing is to reduce calories per se. You go, well, I'm not losing weight or I'm gaining weight, therefore I just need to reduce the calories I take in. Well, unless you're doing something unusual that you overeat. But to be honest, if you're applying all the correct principles of keto, it's probably very unlikely you could overeat because you're just not really that hungry most of the time. And this is one of the greatest advantages of being on keto, is that you have that really loud and clear signal to tell you that you're really full. Your body is having enough energy. You don't need any more. If you've been on keto for a while, you will know that when you're full, you're full. You really cannot eat anymore. Whereas on high carb diet, by the time you realize you're full, you're very, very full because your system is so messed up. Your insulin is all over the place. It's like having so much noise that you just cannot hear that satiety signal your body is trying to tell you. So you keep eating. So if you're just simply reducing the calories, it's not sustainable because eventually your metabolism will slow down. As I said before, your body does not know you're on a diet. Your body is going to think you're starving. Your body will try to hold on to everything because as far as your body is concerned, you're going through a crisis. And when your body is in crisis, the body does not want to let go of body fat. And then there's another commonly used method that's been suggested is carb cycling. So again, this is another bigger topic. There's a lot of stuff you can search online and you can look into that further if you're interested. So basically it's cycling through low carb, high fat, and then high carb, low fat days. But it goes back to the same idea, is to try to shock your body into resetting. And some people swear by it. So I tried it, but it totally didn't work for me. So I was only on it for about 3-4 days. So I probably didn't give it enough chance. But I was freaking out because I was putting on weight pretty much overnight. And I think I had some porridge. And overnight, I gained like 1.5 kilos. And that totally freaked me out. And I think it depends on, if you're calm and collected, you don't mind major fluctuation between intervals. And that's one of the things that would happen. It didn't work for me. I didn't want to do it. And I just didn't like the feeling of eating carbs again. I just think it's gonna just set me into that vicious cycle again. And my body felt sluggish and I felt tired. But even just for the last 3-4 days, I knew it wasn't for me. So these are the dietary solutions you could try. But as I said before, we really cannot overlook our mental balance and mental well-being. So I say first and foremost, exercise. And I know I sound like a broken record. It's really important. I do not use exercise to lose weight. As someone said, if you're relying on exercise to maintain your weight, you need to fix your diet. Simple as that. So I think my diet is on track. So I'm using exercise really for enjoyment and for the stress relief. When you're exercising, even just stretching and simple yoga, your body is releasing a lot of hormones, a lot of feel-good hormones like endorphins, etc. You don't need to go on high-impact cardio to get that. So I can't stress more on the importance of incorporating some sort of physical activities in our lives, on daily routines. And also find ways of relaxation. As I said, stress is one of the major factors that get your body into an unbalanced state. So when we're under stress or we're not sleeping well, our body produces a lot of cortisol. And cortisol is called stress hormone. And it's not called stress hormone for a laugh. It will literally turn your life upside down if you're not careful. It will make you emotionally unhappy. You might have weight gain. And when your body is producing a lot of cortisol, you can bet that you won't lose weight. So I say finding ways to relieve your stress on a day-to-day basis is probably one of the most important things, along with exercise, that you could do. I have a few tricks that I use on a daily basis. If you exercise every day, you're probably 50% there. I try to do things I enjoy, and then I use stuff like essential oils. I have a diffuser. I've got like a whole box of essential oils that I use on a regular basis, and I just pick and choose the ones I like and have a few drops in the diffuser and just fill the room with aroma that I love. And it brings you a lot of calm and peace. And recently I fell in love with incense sticks as well. So I bought like tons of them. They're like sandalwood, ylang-ylang, frankincense, all the smells I love. And I'll just burn them whenever I like, when I'm working or reading or whatever, or watching YouTube, And you'd be surprised how the simple sense of smell can transform your mood, put you in a better state of mind. I truly believe that if you address the balance of your mind, it will fix your body. If your mind is in a balanced state, your body will follow. But if you're not into essential oil or incense sticks, I ask you why not? The least you can do is the Epsom salt bath. I mean, you can take a normal bath. That's perfectly fine. It's very relaxing as well. But I'll highly recommend Epsom salt bath. So I normally get a bag like this. This is like 1 kilo. And don't skimp on it. Just chuck the whole bag. I normally just chuck the whole kilo in there. So I just add in the salts, and it's a bit like cooking, and run some hot water. Not too hot. I mean, when it's too hot, first of all, you can't stay in there for very long, and also it's not very good for your heart. So you just soak in there. And the great thing about Epsom salt is that it will relieve a lot of aches and pains. But also it's one of the best ways for your body to absorb magnesium. Epsom salt is full of magnesium. And our skin is the biggest organ of our body. So it's a great way to absorb magnesium. And it's also so relaxing, and you will feel, really amazing and light afterwards. If you have water retention and that kind of stuff, Epsom salt is definitely a must. So these are the possible cause and potential solutions for you if you're hitting plateau. Most of us will probably experience plateau at some point, and it's good for us to have strategies at hand and also understanding why it's happening, so we don't get disheartened and want to give up. And also the concept of plateau is kind of closely hinged on your body weight. We need to ask ourselves, do we have unrealistic goals? When I embarked on this keto thing a year ago, I wasn't overweight as such, but I was at the stage I wanted to get much fitter and I wanted to get back to dance. So I didn't have a massive amount of weight to lose, but I had a number in mind that I consider ideal. So if you look at my earlier videos, you can probably spot the difference. My face was a bit rounder, and now my body is a lot leaner. And 12 months on, have I reached my goal weight? The answer is no. I'm probably about 3-4 kilos above what I thought I should be. And this is the point I'm trying to make, is that just because we have a number in mind and think that's the weight we should be, our body doesn't always agree. And a lot of times it says no. What we're trying to sort of scrambling about, trying to get our body to reach that goal, your body's like going, what are you doing? I'm not ready yet. And it will try to hold everything still until it knows what to do next. So a lot of times when we think we're plateauing, it's essentially your body is taking some time to readjusting, reestablishing the new baseline. Our body is smart. It knows what is best for it. If you're doing everything right and you're feeling well and fit, then the number on the scale isn't so important, because the goal isn't to get to that particular number. The goal is to feel well and have good quality of life. And there's something I had to learn and realize in the past 12 months being on keto. Maybe my body's telling me that this is the ideal weight I need to be. I feel really well, I'm feeling really strong. I can do a lot of things I couldn't do before fitness-wise. And I'm feeling really, really grateful that my body is allowing me to regain that ability, having not been very good to it for a while. But remember, if you're coming on keto with a goal that you want to change your body and change your, improve your well-being, then you're here for a long haul. So have a long-term strategy and not get disheartened by little bumps in a row. And there will be a few bumps. I think plateau is not a one-off thing. So if you're determined to improve your body and your mind, then we need to learn to embrace all these challenges, because they're not going to be one-off. There will be more, and they will come in different shapes and forms. So if we can equip ourselves with enough strategy and understanding on why these things are happening, and we'll have a lot better time. And each time we overcome the challenges, we learn more about our body, and that can only be a good thing. I know there's a lot to digest, and if you're still here watching, you're a model viewer. You get a badge. I like you very much. So follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. I post the food I eat and also recipes of this channel on a regular basis. So if you're interested, visit my Instagram. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.